Hello all sentient beings and welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, where we talk about all news, comics, and media related to the... On this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode, we review Dreamwave's Transformers Issue 4. Pre-orders are available for the trade paperback of IDW's My Little Ponies Transformers Miniseries, and Hasbro offers up a bunch of free worksheets. Today is Friday, May 15th, 2020, and this is episode 181 of Transmissions Alt Mode.
Welcome to Transmissions Alt Mode, the podcast that always stares off into the distance with a vacant expression. Not because we're stupid, it's for dramatic effect. I'm your host Charles, aka Big C, and I'm joined by the excellent Transmissions team. Jeremy, aka Yakko.
Hey, how's it going?
The exquisite Epic.
Hello.
And Daryl, the Cybertronian Beast.
I am so smart. SMRT. Let's talk Transformers.
Little blast from the Simpsons past there. As always, we start off the show by thanking our Donatreons, those lovely people who give us money on Patreon and PayPal. If you would like to become a Donatreon, just go to transmissionspodcast.com/support. And that really helps out the show, helps us keep the show going. And we appreciate all of our Donatrons who continue to support us. You can also help us out by buying some merchandise from our TeePublic store. That is at transmissionspodcast.com/shop. And you can also check out our friend K-Girl store at teepublic.com/user/superstark. We've got shirts, we've got masks, everything to satisfy your upper body covering needs. And we've got sale because until this Friday, May 15th. So today, this is ending, but everything's 35% off. So take advantage of that. And you can help us out and get a hefty discount. So that'd be cool. You can also, as I mentioned, we love our Donatrons. And every once in a while, we put up some content just for them. And we've got the uncut version of Empire of Rust episode 23. That is exclusive to our Donatrons. It goes up on Patreon and we have a link for our PayPal listeners as well. So that is going to go up this Monday, May 18th. This Monday, May 18th. And that will, we just had episode 23 on the regular show, came out this week. So this is the uncut version with extra outtakes and everything thrown in there, so you can listen to that. So that is exclusive for our Donatreon. So if you're interested in that, it's just $1 a month at the minimum if you want to get access to that. All right, so let's start off talking about some comics news. And just one piece of news this week. So we've got information on the My Little Pony Transformers crossover miniseries from IDW. This was supposed to come out starting this May. Comics have not been delivered yet. I think they're coming back soon, but they're probably going to be a little bit delayed. But the trade paperback was announced for pre-order from Amazon for next year. So this collects all the issues of the comic next year, March 2nd, 2021. If you want to get the entire story, instead of waiting for the single issues to come out this year. But next year you can get the whole trade paperback. I think this will be fun. I'm looking forward to this. I have no kind of familiarity or real interest in My Little Pony, but I am curious to see what they're going to do with Transformers My Little Pony. Epic, what do you think of this crossover? Are you looking forward to this?
I don't know. I think it's quite a odd mashup, in my opinion, but like you, I don't know that much about My Little Pony except that my nieces love them. So who knows? Maybe this is how you can get younger girls who love My Little Ponies interested in Transformers, possibly.
Yeah,
I don't know. But I think it's neat. It's always fun when they do stuff like this. I'd be curious to see where they go with it. But yeah.
Jeremy, is Alex into My Little Pony at all?
I don't know if he has any
idea what he might know what it is just from friends from like school and daycare when those were things. He's never watched it. I don't know if he knows it's a cartoon, but I think this is going to be high on the comedy factor, and hopefully it is age appropriate for younger kids, because I think it would be something neat to share with them.
I mean, I'm expecting it to be. I don't think it's gonna. I don't expect to see any ponies getting like smashed by Megatron.
Oh,
You never know.
It just seems like such an odd mashup.
Yeah.
Yeah. This could be a really dark, serious My Little Pony. Like it could be, despite the cover image, it could be the Bay movie Transformers. You never know.
Daryl, is Kara into My Little Pony, or was she ever into My Little Pony?
Yeah, she was. She used to be. But I mean, she's almost 11 years old, so she's kind of aged out of it. Mm-hmm. But I mean, she might be interested. She still picks up her, like, the Transformers versus Angry Birds comics she's got from years ago and messes around with those. So, you know, it might be worth a story because she's familiar with all the characters. So, yeah, I might pick up a few extra copies for her to read. Yeah, as far as that goes, I mean, I fully agree with you, though. If the story's going to be, you know, I can't see it being anything but kind of kooky and wild and fun. But man, what I wouldn't give to see just Megatron just tear through Eternia or whatever. Is it? No, it's not Eternia, is it? It's
Eternia is a He-Man. That's He-Man.
I mean, he can tear through Eternia too, but wherever the ponies are from.
Looks like it's Equestria.
Equestria, yes. I knew it was
close. You're close.
It was an E. Yeah.
Well, a He-Man crossover would be fun.
Yes. So yeah, I mean,
and DC owns the rights.
That would be just awesome to just see him tear through the Ponyland. Just leave a trail of dead ponies behind them. Oh God, it would be just you just see just tears from all the kids. Oh, but alas, that's for my that's for my own headcanon.
That's for the dark corners of your own soul, your own blackened soul, right, Daryl?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will keep an eye out for this. I'm sure we're going to review this on the show whenever it comes out. So we'll see, and we'll keep an eye out. All right. That's all the comics news. So let's move on to our comic review.
All right. This week we are continuing with our Dreamwave review. We are doing Prime Directive number 4. This is the Transformers Generation 1 number 4 from back in 2002. This is written by Chris Saraceni, pencils by Pat Lee, inks by Rob Armstrong, backgrounds by Edwin Garcia, colors by Ramil Sunga, Gary Young, and Alan Wang, flats by Kenny Lee, letters by Dreamer Design, pre-pressed by Keller Graphics. And again, no editor listed. So, if you saw trips to the store this week, you saw the two covers. Cover A is the Autobot cover and has Sideswipe and Sunstreaker posing for the ladies. And cover B is the Decepticon cover that has your friendly neighborhood Constructicons. Well, 5 of them. I think before we get into who likes what, one thing that was interesting, I noticed with the Sideswipe one, it is an example of the Dreamwave perspective stuff. If you look at Sideswipe's leg, and how it continues on behind Sunstreaker, it looks like it might be a bit longer than it needs to be. But anyway, Epic, let's start with you. Which one of these two do you like?
I guess I would say that I am partial to the Constructicons. So I actually really like that. I like the style that they're drawn in. I just think it's really cool.
Daryl, how about you?
I mean, I want to know why there's only 5 Constructicons, but I definitely think that the Autobots cover is better for me. I don't remember which one I bought, but I just like the dude bro poses that they're throwing up there. It's the fun Lamborghini guys. They're cool, and I always like those guys as toys. So yeah, it was fun to get that that shot of them.
Yeah, it's almost like, hey, Sideswipe, I know you like the guns. Here, go shoot that thing.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, Charles, we saw you got both of them. Which one is your favorite?
I'd have to pick the Autobot one, the Sideswipe and Sunstreaker. I think I don't know. I like the pose, and I like their art style a little bit better. Although the one complaint I have is Sunstreaker's got like super fat fingers in that pointing hand. But other than that, I think they're pretty good pose, and yeah, the leg is a little bit weird. Sideswipe's back leg is a little bit. Although, yeah, I guess that's kind of weird.
If they didn't, I don't know. It might. What I'm seeing is his leg might actually be Sunstreaker's arm. They just colored the black part red and the red part black, or something. I don't know. They should have just left that whole part off. I don't know.
Yeah, but I do like Sideswipe's, and Sideswipe's got a little smirk on his face. I like that. That's more expression than you see inside the comic.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I would also go with the Autobot cover. I've always been kind of a Sideswipe guy, and I really liked this. I remember when it came out. So that'll be the cover I pick. All right, into the summary here. Prime Directive Part 4. General Halo lands at the Pentagon with Spike tied up. He orders that Spike be put in a cell, unseen, and also that anything related to Operation Cleanup is to be destroyed. At the site of the blast, the Autobots are pulling themselves together and pulling themselves out of the walls of this dome that has formed. Most of the Autobots are fine, but some, like Ironhide and Bluestreak, are in rough shape. Wheeljack starts analyzing the virus that caused this, and Prime orders him to find its source, but to watch out for any Decepticons. However, as Superion breaks free, Wheeljack notices that the Decepticons aren't really going to be something they have to worry about right now, as he spots the imprint that Megatron had made in the metallic surface is empty. In the Pacific Ocean, a submarine is alerted to a fast-approaching object. Before they can take any defensive action, they're destroyed by a giant fist. Back with the Autobots, Wheeljack has found the source of the virus, but it's inert. He discovers that it's a self-replicating virus that feeds on itself, and that as he's explaining this to Prime, Ironhide forces himself to sit up, and he warns Prime with a message that Megatron had left for him. Near the coast of San Francisco, Devastator emerges from the water. He makes quick work of some dock workers as the rest of the Decepticons arrive. Megatron orders them to attack the humans, and Devastator leads with destroying the Golden Gate Bridge. Just as he's about to destroy a couple and their baby, Superion grabs his arm and tosses him back into the water. It's an all-out battle, but Superion quickly falls due to some well-placed shots by the Seekers. Decepticon looms large as everyone looks up in surprise. And that's the end of the book. This one, I think, has been the worst in terms of faces, particularly on humans. That the baby face was particularly disturbing. Story-wise, it's moving along. This was more of an action-packed issue, but I like the idea of the virus and how that played out. But I don't know. This one was kind of, the faces were really getting to me. Charles, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, that baby was quite disturbing. I mean, I don't remember like ever noticing that before, but yeah, when I reread it just today, it was, yeah, I kept looking at it like, is that supposed to be is that a baby?
It's like an adult face.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I think the art is okay. Other than the faces, the art is okay. Although this is the beginning of the combiners going like super giant scale. Like before, in previous Transformers media, you didn't have this combiners be like growing 10 times their size. Like you can see like with Optimus Prime on the back of Superion, like Superion's made up of 5 guys, so you wouldn't think that Optimus Prime is that small, you know, compared to him and
perspective or sizes. There's no consistency here.
Yeah. And Devastator is also, he's like towering over all the buildings.
Yeah, mammoth.
Yeah. So that's a little bit weird. I don't get Megatron's plan at this point. Like, I get the, like, creating the virus and hoping it consumes the Earth, but then why are you going to attack a random city to show Prime that humans can get stepped on? I don't know what, like, it's, I mean, Megatron has, he's like, we'll make Prime see how worthless the humans are by murdering them. I mean, okay, I guess. I don't know how that's going to make Prime agree with you, but okay. I think Prime is right. You should have just murdered them while you had the chance, and then you could have taken over. But, yeah. I think the plot's kind of starting to fall apart here, unfortunately.
It is very thin. Epic. Had you read any of the Dreamwave books before this?
No, I do have two of these first. One, I don't know. I do have this number 4, the physical comic for this one, but it'd been a long time since I read it. So I did read 1 through 4, 0 through 4 to catch up and see what's going on and stuff. And I will say I do really like the artwork that they have going on. The style of it and everything is really cool. But as for this issue number 4, I felt the same way about Devastator, like you said, Charles. He's just some work trucks, but now he's like towering over a whole city. He's just this like, I do love the spread shot, the shot of Devastator coming out of the water where it's over the 2 pages. Like that's super sweet. It's just
there are some very cinematic panels. Yes.
But then it's kind of like, all right, might be getting a little carried away here, guys, on size. But reading this, I did feel like there's all of a sudden so many things going on with the storyline. And like you said, they've made this virus, so why not just leave it at that and let the virus take over? Like, why are you just now all of a sudden going to a random city to squish people to prove that they need to be squished? I don't know. It's still a fun story line that they've got going on. But yeah, I don't know. I just kind of felt like I was being torn or like pulled all over the place with where they were going with the storyline. It's like, well, should I like be focusing on this virus, or now we're attacking the city? Does that really make the virus matter at all? Because they're kind of like both super big storylines to go after. You've got a virus that sounds like it's going to swallow up the world because they can't stop it because it's eating on itself. But now you've also got Megatron just destroying a city. Now you've got...
Yeah, it's not like there's an A and B storyline. It's like they're both trying to be the A storyline.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, Daryl, what were your thoughts on this issue?
Well,
you got a lot of your big fight.
Hey, would it surprise anyone that I liked this issue? Yeah, no, this was I found this issue to be really fun. Actually, whenever the big bots start pounding on each other, I'm having a good time. This issue gives us the iconic image that Epic just touched on of Devastator coming out of the water, and that was like a desktop wallpaper for years of mine. Like that only got replaced when the Guido Guidi one came out from All Hail Megatron. Like that was a go-to for a long time. So yeah, this was a really important issue for desktop wallpapers.
Yeah. A super sweet shot.
It's a great shot. Yeah. So I mean, the scale never came into my mind when I read this for the first time or into the second time around. I never even started thinking about it. Yeah, it's you point at it and you say, yeah, it shouldn't work, and it doesn't work. But it's just fun to look at two giant robots just beating the shit out of each other in the middle of a city. It's a Godzilla fight, let them go. As far as the artwork goes, the rest of the artwork, yeah, I mean, the baby, I wasn't really looking at the baby's face. I was more concentrated on the giant green robot that was about to tear the building down, right? So, yeah, it was cool. The transformation of Grimlock in the middle of the city was really awesome. It was kind of like blurred in a couple spots to make it, motion lines kind of thing. It's cool. The storyline of Grimlock being, on the Decepticons kind of thing or siding with them right now is still kind of unresolved. What the hell's going on there? The virus itself is it's a cool cool virus to have because it's, it's kind of Cybertronian. It's also, organic. So it's a mixture of both. It's kind of, something that could only exist on Earth because they wouldn't have any organics to use on Cybertron for it. So it's, it's a problem that could only exist with them being there. So they're going to have to deal with it. Who's better to deal with it than Ratchet or Wheeljack, I guess. Ratchet's out of commission. But yeah, so I mean, the story, I think, is using the players in the right spot. Mm-hmm.
Do you think it's fun for them to introduce the virus as a problem versus it just being the same old story of Megatron trying to destroy cities and Autobots beating him up? It's kind of like a way to have a different enemy.
Right. Well, I mean, the Decepticons and the Autobots, the virus was dropped on them by the humans, right? So,
well, no. The humans dropped a nuke on them.
Well,
yeah, and then.
Okay.
Yeah, the virus was made by like Megatron and gang, and then when they dropped the nuke on it, it absorbed all the energy from that.
Oh, gotcha. Mm-hmm. All right, well then that changes everything. I hate this book.
I did forget to say the one I did love when Optimus Prime saved it and punched Megatron in the face. That did make me chuckle towards the end of the fight.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely redeeming qualities in the book, and I mean, this is 4 issues in. I don't really count the 4-page issue 0, but this is definitely 4th issue of their first shot in Transformers. I think they're doing okay, right? If I were to go back and judge this as, Dreamwave's first kick at the can, the artwork is definitely Japanese orientated. As I'm reading through this, I'm like, what the hell are they all looking at in the sky that's being a big problem? I haven't read ahead to issue 5. I'm sure I read it years ago. And when I actually read issue 5, it'll be like some kind of weird spaceship or jet or something like that really doesn't make any difference to anybody. But they're all real concerned with it at the end of issue 4.
Well, I thought they were looking up at Devastator.
Devastator's looking up too.
That's what I thought.
Well, so this is actually this is I put a link in the show notes about this because this is actually it was a very contentious thing at the time because I was collecting these comics at the time when this issue came out and this page, everyone was like, what are they looking at? What are they looking at? And then the next book was actually late. So it was like 2 months before we find out what was happening, why they were all looking up in the sky. And it turns out there wasn't any like plot reveal or anything. It was just they were looking up at Devastator. But
okay.
the expressions on their faces are so ambiguous that no one could tell that, what was happening. Because you'd think, like, if they were looking at Devastator, Megatron should be smiling in victory while the other ones should be horrified, and then Devastator should be, like, angry or something.
Well, what's Devastator looking at then?
He's just roaring. When you were first, I think it was Jeremy was saying how it ended with them looking in the sky, wondering. I was like, I don't remember that. So I pulled it up, and I did think when I read this, I thought they were all looking at Devastator, and I thought maybe Devastator was going out of control, which was why Megatron was making like a kind of oh crap face type thing. But yeah, I just took it as Devastator was getting out of hand.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this is why people were a little bit upset with this image in particular, and this is where the term dull surprise comes from, because the facial expressions are so generic that you can't really tell what their expressions are, and they just have this dull surprise.
I will give them this. They're able to convey that same emotion with Optimus Prime with a faceplate.
But yeah, I do remember it was funny, but to be in message boards on Transformers sites back then, there were lots of debates about what's going to happen in the next issue. Does Omega Supreme drop down and start fighting Devastator, or does Metroplex come in? What's going to happen? And then the next issue came, and we're like, oh, they just can't draw faces.
Well, that's a shame. Now it's been ruined for me. I don't want to even read the issue 5 now. But yeah, no, as far as the book goes, I was pretty happy with reading it. I mean, I'm not expecting too much, but yeah, they're okay books. I'm more concerned with the Constructicons cover as to why there's only 5.
Right.
Where's the 6th one?
Hook had to go to the washroom, Daryl.
I guess. Or he's still working on the building in the background. Say, Hook, are you coming? We're going to take a picture.
Yeah, my guess is Pat Lee, when he was drawing this, forgot, and then he ran out of room.
Possibly.
Yeah. But anyway, this continuing the fun of Dreamwave. We also have, before we finish up here, we have some comments from Mr. Yoshi. He's been enjoying in air quotes with us this series, and he's sent in some of his thoughts. So here's Yoshi.
I just finished Dreamwave's Transformers issue 4. For those wanting to know, I preferred the smirking Sideswipe cover. I enjoyed that one more than the Constructicons cover. So issue 4 to me feels like the writer doesn't know where this story is going right now. There's hints and threads of some good story ideas, but I don't feel like they know where it's going. This issue breaks one of my commandments, which is it just didn't have a beginning and a middle and an end. I don't feel like if I had bought this particular issue and read it, I would have gotten my money's worth out of it. My favorite part of the issue was Superion fighting Devastator. I did enjoy that fight. It was short, but I did enjoy it a lot. And it just felt like I was hanging on to the ride, hoping to end up somewhere. Like I said, a bunch of threads. You've got Wheeljack trying to solve the virus. You've got the other guys trying to rebuild the dismantled or underpowered Autobots, and then you have Prime and Megatron in, I assume, San Francisco, duking it out across the place. Trying to keep the collateral damage to a minimum. And I really want to say that with the damage that the Decepticons are causing, it's keeping Optimus Prime occupied so much that he can't be the badass we all grew up loving and enjoying as kids. He's too busy saving people or just trying to assess what the hell's going on and how to get at it. I really hope this isn't a neutered Optimus Prime that I've seen so much of in IDW books. But that's how it feels to me. It doesn't feel like they know exactly where they're going. This wasn't an issue that felt complete to me. This feels like, again, like issue 2, this is waiting for the trade release, which I absolutely hate. And I believe that's what it's going to be like now. I don't believe it's going to feel like you can buy one issue and feel like you got your money's worth at this point. So those are real quickly my thoughts. I'm anxious to listen to the episode and hear what you guys think. And I'll talk to you later.
All right. Well, thanks, Yoshi, for sending that in. And it seems like this issue, at least, we're all on the same page. So that's really cool. But that will wrap up our comic review this week.
All right, and let's move on to media news.
All right, in media news this week, I've got a little business news to talk about, and in that business news, we've got an E1 deal from Hasbro, because Hasbro owns the E1, and they signed a deal with former Marvel executive and producer Jeremy Latcham to produce movies based on Hasbro properties. So that's cool. He's previously worked on the Avengers series, Spider-Man: Homecoming, Guardians of the Galaxy, and many other MCU projects, and is known for using the source materials. So that's actually really good news. Hopefully, he gets a shot at doing something with Transformers and using the comics. Apparently, his first project, Jeremy Latcham's first project, will be to work on the Dungeons and Dragons live-action movie, which is slated for July 23rd, 2021. It is saying something here in the bottom of the story that there's nothing highlighted at the moment, but it is likely that he will work on Transformers as well as G.I. Joe. That's pretty cool. Anybody have any thoughts on this or anything like that they want to jump in on?
He's got a good pedigree. Like, all those MCU movies are great.
Mm-hmm.
So if he's trying to bring in elements of the source material into the movies, I'm all for having him involved.
Yeah.
Me too.
Right on. Moving on, we've got a couple fun little games and stuff for the little ones to do while we're still in quarantine here. Or, save them and do them outside of quarantine. Doesn't matter. You can be done anywhere. The Bring Home the Fun event is continuing with Hasbro, and they've done 2 printable worksheets. So one of them is a Rescue Bots Academy Mission Maze, and you can print that off and do it at home. And the other one is a BotBots Toilet Troop Crazy Coloring Worksheet. And these are both really fun things for the little ones to do. Or, me, I want to do some Toilet Troop craziness. So, print that off and color some Toilet Troops.
Heck yeah.
Damn right. Takara Tommy's getting in on the fun though too with releasing a Transformers Cyberverse coloring pages. So these are kind of fun. These are not too advanced. They're probably a little bit more lines than probably a four-year-old would want to color. But give it to like your 6-year-old or 7-year-old, and they'll probably have a little bit more fun with that.
Or your 27-year-old.
Yes. And totally for adults, too. You've got Optimus, Bumblebee, Megatron, Starscream, RC, Windblade, Grimlock, Hot Rod. I guess he was Rodimus, wasn't he, in the show? Yeah. Soundwave, Shockwave, Prowl, and Wheeljack. Tons of characters here from the show to print off and color. And they do give samples on how they looked in the show as well. So if you've got a little one that says, I don't know how many colors or what colors to use, first of all, it doesn't matter. It'll look great either way. But if you actually want to go for show accuracy, because we all know how important that is, there is a color chart here you can use. So that's fun.
He was Hot Rod in the show, Daryl.
He was? Oh, okay. Cool. I was right the first time. Mike, make me sound smart. I'm just getting word that from Mike that is not possible. And lastly, for media news, episode 7 of Cyberverse has did drop on Monday on Hasbro's YouTube channel and can be seen by everyone in the United States. Nowhere else. And that's it for media news.
All right, and we will finish up the show with some feedback. All right, Will, we have some feedback from you that came a couple of weeks ago, and we didn't get to it, so we're going to get to it now. Sorry for the wait. So Will says, hi, chaps. I enjoyed the discussion about comic artists on last week's show, which was a few weeks ago now. I could have worded my question a bit more clearly. I was asking about pre-IDW Transformers artists in particular. Charles, as you asked for my favorites, here we go off the top of my head. Jeff Sr. has been my favorite since I was a little kid. That is a correct answer, Will. I was always disappointed when I bought an issue of the UK comic and he wasn't the artist. I've got 3 pages of his original art and their prized possessions. I am jealous, Will. A few of the TFUK artists are still favorites. Lee Sullivan, Will Simpson, John Ridgway. Ron Smith only did 1 issue, but it's a great one. Jerry Paris did some terrific covers. Brian Hitch's early work is really good, especially the inking. I've got a soft spot for Jeff Anderson and Dan Reed as well. As I'm from the UK and the British comic was how I discovered Transformers, that version has always been my favorite. After Jeff Sr., I think the best art in any Transformers comic of any era was the 2 issues of Marvel US that William Johnson and Kyle Baker did, issues 7 and 8. Amazing work. Over the years, I've come to appreciate Don Perlin's pencils with Ian Aiken and Brian Garvey's inks. Not dynamic, but really solid work. The coloring in the Marvel US comics does the art no favors, though. Poor Nel Yomtov. Anyway, I've banged on a bit, but that's how it is with this subject. If you can indulge me a bit longer, I have another question. All my pre-IDW comics are good old-fashioned paper, but for the new comics, I've gone digital. As so much of the art is done digitally now, it looks fantastic on an iPad screen. Is it the collecting gene that keeps you guys buying individual issues from a store? Have any of you made the leap to digital in addition to buying paper copies? Do you see yourselves going fully digital? And finally, thanks for keeping the show going through this drought of new comics. I always look forward to Wednesday and Friday morning when the new shows pop up in Apple Podcasts. Transmissions is one of the highlights during a tough time. Keep well, Will. Well, thanks for the kind words, Will. That was a nice way to end the email. For the question about digital versus physical, I think for me, I think the price, the $4 per issue price for comics, I think I can't justify going all digital for that price. I think I have to get the paper book if I'm going to pay the full $4 or $5 for an issue. I mean, I think, yeah, it's just for me. I've been collecting comics since I was a kid, so it's just something I continue to like to do, and I like having the paper copy in my hand. Although I will say that I am taking advantage of the Humble bundles that IDW puts out periodically. So you can get like, I think the last Humble bundle that came out last fall, you get almost the entire run of IDW comics for like $15. So that's a huge value for the money if you if you just want to go all digital. And I think that it pays to wait rather than buy them as they come out on Comixology or through IDW's app. And it just feels like the value is not there for digital comics since, it's just the digital copy. And those are my thoughts. Daryl, I know this is also an issue for you. What are your, is that similar to your thinking, or what keeps you buying paper copies?
Well, I mean, first of all, when he mentioned this, I was like, oh man, do you guys remember when we used to ask artists about digital versus physical and their, when we interviewed them?
Yeah.
We haven't done that in a long time. But anyway, I mean, I still buy all my comics physically because I do enjoy having that physical copy. It does go back to me being a collector when I was a kid, but also due to the fact that I used to get in trouble financially when I was, in my early teens and late teens and early 20s and late 20s, early 30s and late 30s. But
you're in financial trouble right now.
But so when times like that would crop up, I would be able to go to my long boxes and go through them and be like, okay, here's a stack I don't need. Here's a bunch I don't need. Oh, I need to keep that. That's good. That one's good. I really like that one. That's good. That's sentimental value. I'll keep that. There's a big chunk I don't need. And I'd take a nice long box or a short box down to this comic store and I'd say, what can you give me for these? And he'd throw out a number and I'd be like, that's bullshit. You need to give me this. And, and then we'd have a back and forth. And then I'd take less than his original offer because I was a dick. But, but that would be how it would work. And it was, I would end up having this, I used to call it my like backup bank account, where these collectibles were sitting there and I could go to them at any point in time and cash them in. And be able to buy food or gas, or most of the time it was gas, or pay my car insurance or whatnot, because, I was still living at home and I needed, other things. But, I didn't need comics as much. I'd already read them and whatnot. So that was my deal for having physical ones. Digital, you can't do that. They don't exist outside of the screen, right? So, you read them and you're done with them. Spending the exact same amount of money on them, that's insanity to me. That, you're buying a file that has no residual value after you're done reading it. Whereas I can still take my books, whether they're, whether they've lost money or not, I can still take them and get something for them, right? So that's...
You never have to worry about the pages ripping, though.
This is true. It's true. There is one thing that I'll point out where I will actually get a digital copy of a book, and I don't buy them in the traditional sense. Like I do have digital copies, but I'll take, for example, I have a full set of the Watchmen comics, right? So they're individual issues. There's 12 of them, and they're worth a significant amount of money individually. But I won't actually read them, right? I won't read those books. What I'll do is I'll go on to the internet, I'll find a file, and I'll download that, and I'll read that digital file. Now, is it wrong that I've torrented or downloaded the file of the books I actually do own? In my mind, I don't think so, because I actually do own them. I'm just choosing not to read the physical copies because I don't want to damage them. So that's the only way that I'll actually read digital stuff. And, obviously we do stuff for the show and not, but that's different. But yeah, the only time I'll actually read digital stuff is when I actually don't want to damage the physical copies of the books that I have that are higher value. So yeah, but as far as digital versus physical, I'm well onto the side of physical copies.
I think they need to figure out how to make, like, digital's the convenience and making it easy to read and available on all your devices. That's great, but it comes with significant downsides. Like, you never actually own anything digitally. It's always like you're buying a license to read content. You don't actually own it. Like, when you own a physical book, you own that book. It's
some publishers do let you download DRM free backup copies. Like IDW is one of those. So okay. If you buy something on Comixology, you can download a PDF or a CBZ file, and whatever happens to Comixology, you still have that file.
Getting into comics, though, doing digital is just easier in a way, because it's also an issue of space. Like, I'm just fully digital. I don't part of it too is that I didn't grow up collecting comics and stuff, so it's not a thing it's not like a hobby that I have or develop. And it is weird because I do prefer having the physical copies of things, or like I really have always been someone who wants to like buy the book and have the book, but over the years, like, digital is just so nice because then I don't have to worry about having all this space for all these books. And like, especially comics, when you get into comics, you just got issue after issue. It's like where you have to have the space to be able to keep them. And then it's always that it's tough because you guys have going on where it's like you don't want to necessarily read them because you don't want to like possibly ruin them, That's just one thing that's nice about digital. The price, though, on them is a bit silly when you're not actually getting a physical book. I feel like they need to kind of rethink what they're doing there. But I do like digital I can like take my whole library of comics when I go anywhere because it's just on my tablet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely the convenience factor is really high with digital, and makes it so much easier to just pick up any comics you have in your collection.
But there's the responsibility is to the people running the digital side of it, is that if they did reduce it, which, I mean, I'm all for, but on the flip side of that, say they dropped it, they went by half. How many people would then switch from physical to digital? Right? Because now they weren't collectors. They were just buying them for the stories. And now, because they can get the same, reading material for half, they don't want the physical copy. Right? So now you're now going to put comic book stores out of business. Is that's
if COVID doesn't do that first?
Well, that's true. Right. This was the argument pre-COVID. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think COVID's kind of forcing the issue in a lot of ways, but one of my big issues with them is that it costs the same price for physical as it does for digital when they're coming from the same file, but the digital, you have to pay like Comixology their percentage that they get on each sale. But outside of that, there's no reason for it to be,
Yeah, I mean, if they
maybe more than $1.
I know if are you like talking about if they drop the price, Daryl, it's kind of like, well, then they would just end up losing money because now everyone would switch. But then if they just stop making physical books, then all of a sudden they don't have the cost of the printing and all that type of stuff and sending it out. It's your artist's already doing it digitally, so you don't have the cost of
it's true.
Physical
and I mean,
artwork and stuff.
I'm not really talking about the comic book companies. I'm talking more about the brick and mortar stores that sell them.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you've got tons of those that are around that just they live and die on the amount of books that they can move in any given week, right? Which is why COVID's been such a big issue.
But I think that's where the industry needs to change. I mean, if you look at your store, they do a lot more than just comics.
Exactly. Yes.
Comics are the major part of their business, but they have toys, other collectibles, and I think that's kind of where stores will need to shift. Mm-hmm. Just diversify yourself because, as we've seen with Diamond not shipping books, anything with a single point of failure is not a very safe business to be in.
No.
You want to diversify. Like my comic store has a pretty heavy online component as well as like collectibles and stuff, but I think they're doing okay because they're still able to ship back catalog stuff from online. But if you have a store that is just doing books on the shelves and that's it, I mean, is it the comic book publisher's fault that you go out of business because you haven't been able to adjust to, the modern situation?
Yeah.
I think it sucks, but I don't think it's their responsibility. Their responsibility is to make money off of their products.
Yeah. And I mean, you speak of my store and they're being able to diversify, but the one thing that they don't have is an online presence. So I'm interested to see once this is all over, whether they actually do go forward. They've had many people over the years say, you need to get your stuff online because this is ridiculous that you're biggest store in Canada and you have no online presence. But,
right.
I'll be interested to see. I'm sure that they'll look at it, but it's, this has opened a lot of eyes for people. Stores that survive this pandemic there's going to be some changes made.
Oh, definitely. I mean, and personally, I'm a mix of both physical and digital. I subscribe to like a couple series digitally because I want to get them the day that they're out without having to get to the comic book store. But then other series I can wait, and I want them for the collectability in addition to the story. So I'm a mix, but I do like the sales you can get with digital. Like, Daryl, if you wanted to go get Watchmen right now, it's like $9 on Comixology. It's a 50% off sale.
But I already spent $95 on it.
No, I'm just saying, like, they have like back issues. They have sales all the time, so you can pick up a bunch of books, essentially like the dollar bins, but digitally.
Sure.
And if you just want to read the books, then that's cool. I wish DC and Marvel would do the DRM free backups, but they don't.
All right. Well, thanks, Will, for that question. I thought that was a good discussion.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Our final piece of feedback comes from Brent. And he says, gentlemen, while I don't hate the current IDW Transformers comic book continuity, I sure don't love it, and I keep waiting for it to blow me away. I love a slow burn, but slow burns only work if things are actually happening. Things that advance the plot. Anyways, my question is, would IDW ever consider just dumping the current continuity and picking up / continuing the previous Phase 1 / Phase 2 continuity of All Hail Optimus and the Lost Light, etc.? Not saying they will do this, but do you think it's possible they would if the reception to the current continuity continues to be lukewarm? Thanks, Brent. Well, actually, Yoshi wanted to chime in on this one, and I thought he gave a pretty good answer, so I think I'm going to let him go first. So let's play the clip.
So we got some feedback this week from a listener, Brent, and I just wanted to throw in my 2 cents here. Brent was asking, would IDW ever consider dumping the current continuity? And yeah, IDW would. They would dump it, and they would start with a new issue number 1. comic book companies have been doing this for years and years and years. They will just reboot if it's not working out. But Brent also asks and continues with, would they ever dump the current continuity and go back to the previous one with All Hail Megatron and or Lost Light? And that will never happen. That is not something they will. That would be akin to IDW admitting that they have made a mistake. And even though I believe a majority of us comic book readers believe that IDW made a mistake, and look, I wasn't a fan of Lost Light, but they ended that run long before it was ready to end, and everybody knew it, and everybody was upset about it. And I was upset for everybody that was upset about it, because that wasn't right. That run had a strong following of fans and no justifiable reason to reboot it other than maybe a new Transformers #1 would sell a little bit better than the current whatever number Lost Light was. So, no, you're talking about a company that will never, ever, ever, for as long as we live, admit that they made a mistake. And you're talking about a company that I don't know the last time they've ever had a profitable year. So you would think that they could look at their layoffs, and they could look at the lack of money that they've made and that they're hemorrhaging, and that they would be like, oh, well, maybe we are making a mistake. But they would never make that call. I mean, that's a corporation admitting to them making a mistake is unheard of. I'd be curious who if there is one out there that's ever admitted to that. But no, it'll be a cold day in hell when pigs are flying that they will admit that they screwed up. Here's a new Lost Light issue. It'll never happen. But thanks for the question, Brent. That was a good one.
All right. And I mostly agree with what Yoshi's saying here, although I will say, I mean, I was a fan of Lost Light, although, I mean, I don't want to go back through the whole history of what happened with them shifting to, rebranding the comics. You know, they shifted from More Than Meets the Eye and Robots in Disguise to then Optimus Prime and Lost Light. And I think that they actually lost a lot of readers there. I mean, I think the reason they shut down all the comics from the previous continuity was, frankly, sales. I mean, they were, the sales were continually dropping month after month, and they weren't picking up any new readers, and eventually got to the point where it was unsustainable, which was unfortunate. Even though I was a fan of it, I don't think enough people were buying it. So that's unfortunately what happens.
I have some data from the new series if you want.
Okay, yeah, sure.
I was looking up, and for March 2019, the new series #1 sold 21,757. These are all estimated from Comicron.com. Issue 2, the same month, 12,871. Go to March 2020, issue 18, 8,747. While Transformers vs. Terminator #1 was 20,931.
#1 is always going to sell
big drops.
Yeah, I don't know if 18 was affected by the stores shutting down and stuff. I think it was kind of before a lot of that, but you can expect the #1 of a Transformers book to be around 20,000 or so. But just to go down that much, that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And yeah, I mean, and I think that's where Lost Light was towards the end, as they were circling around that like under 8,000 copies total.
It was around 5.
Oh yeah, so that's even worse.
Yeah, it was really low.
You remember what month that was? Or what year?
No, I don't.
It would have been like October of 2018. That was the last. I was really
asking Charles, Darryl.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna get a lot of drop off over the course of a comic series. I mean, the fact that we're still at 8,000 at issue 18, I think, is a miracle. So, I mean, you got to remember the Lost Light and More Than Meets the Eye. More Than Meets the Eye started off like gangbusters. and lost a lot of steam when it switched over to Lost Light. Like you were just saying, it's to switch back over to that storyline. Sure, you might get a one shot here and there where the somebody travels to a different dimension or something like that and actually interacts with characters in that storyline, but you'll never ever see them switch back to that continuity. And that's where I agree with Yoshi on this. It's not something that's, I don't think, has ever been done in comics ever. So why would they start with this one? They've got everyone working on different projects. So it's it's not something that's going to be seen. And I don't think it's about admitting that they made a mistake. It's just, they'd be wanting to make money again. Right. So yeah, I mean, not like Jeremy said, number ones are going to make a ton of money always, but you're going to see that drop off right away.
Yeah. And Charles, you were off by a month. It was November 2018.
Oh, they were late. The books were late.
Yeah. So Lost Light 25, 5,704.
Yeah, that's
same month. Star Trek versus Transformers number 2, 8,685, and Unicron number 6, 7,619.
Yeah, I mean, it's you're not going to sustain the book if you're moving less than 10,000 copies. The book's not going to be profitable. So
unless it's digital and you don't have all the paper costs.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, and that's the main issue. Like I know the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles comics, which is also produced by IDW, they're up to like the hundreds because they sell consistently. And I mean, I guess there's just not so I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, like other properties are primarily comics in general. Transformers is primarily a toy property, and the subset of Transformers fans who are comics fans who will buy Transformers comics consistently is a smaller portion than the total Transformers fans.
But Turtles is a really good comparison though.
Yeah.
Because Turtles had a cartoon. It was more recent, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
they have a cartoon right now.
So, I mean, Transformers just ended. But Transformers was a little different. But you're right. Turtles their cartoon has been a little bit more consistent. The
Turtles is owned by Nickelodeon now.
Okay. But their comic, I mean, the Turtles comic, it's been irregular, to say the least. Their new one is probably the most regular one they've ever had.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean,
issue 104 had 14,869.
That's not huge numbers.
No, but
I mean, but what I think about Turtles is that they did start off Turtles. The concept started off as a comic, and I think it's in fans' minds, the comic is kind of one of their core aspects. I think for Transformers, although I have loved Transformers comics since the beginning, but I think it feels like a lot of Transformers fans still think of comics as like secondary or third tier Transformers media, and they don't consider it, something they need to collect. And I don't know.
Yeah. I think this goes down to advertising. When was the last time you saw any kind of advertisement for a comic outside of another comic?
That's true.
You're like eating your own kind of audience and you're not expanding it all. The toys are selling. You have a Netflix series coming. Get some advertisements for the comics in these other, like when we had Dark Cybertron, they did pack-in comics. I mean, I'm sure that wasn't cheap, but even just a blurb on the packaging.
Yeah, it turned War for Cybertron into a comic line.
Yeah, mm-hmm. the toys are already kind of resembling a lot of the figures.
Mm-hmm.
And just include a download code for a comic in some of the packages. That I think things like that can only help expand. I mean, if you look at like some of the big comics last year that Marvel put out that sold like gangbusters, it's because they included a comic in a loot box. It wasn't people going to the comic store and buying whatever comic that was. So they need to think outside the box, and I don't see them doing that.
Yeah, so I think Brent, in summary, no, they're not gonna go back to the old continuity.
You're getting back to your actual question.
But I mean, I do expect them to at some point reboot for another Transform. I mean, if I don't know how far this current continuity is going to go, but I don't expect it to go as long as the previous one did, at least.
Yeah, I mean, it's sad because there's interesting ideas.
But I mean, if sales don't turn around, it's not gonna it's not gonna continue. That's just the harsh reality. All right, well, that's all our feedback for this week. Thanks everyone for writing in, and I think that will do it for this episode of Transmissions Alt Mode. Again, want to thank Epic for joining us this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and tell everyone where they can find you on the internet and find all your content.
You can head on over to epicsuicide.com. That's EPYK suicide.com, and all my social links are there.
Awesome. And we will also have links in the show notes so everyone can find you. All right, everyone. Thanks for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Later.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to this episode of Transmissions. But just because this episode is over doesn't mean the Transformers fun has to stop. Join us and other Transformers fans on our Discord chat server by visiting transmissionspodcast.com/discord. If you would like to learn more about how you could support the Transmissions Podcast, just visit transmissionspodcast.com/support. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you again next week.
I am recording.
I am a robot.
Bleep, bloop, bleep.
I love robots! Hey guys, so I've read issue 2, and I gotta thank you all from...
That was the wrong file.
Yep.
Jeremy, we're not reviewing issue 2 every week.
They need to have different file names.